on Measure EE, go to nowayee.com. That's
The
no
following
way.
program is produced by the AM First Radio Network and distributed by Global American Broadcasting, the GAB Radio Network.
Thank you for tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali. I am Attorney Zulu Ali with the Justice Watch crew, Rosa Nunez, Michael Bilal Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Andrea Rodeman. This week, like every week, we'll be discussing critical legal and social justice issues that are impacting our communities. This week, the topic is the controversy and censorship of Kanye West, the real implications. We'll also talk a little bit about the Kyrie Irving situation, and we'll also talk a little bit about the November the 8th elections that we have coming up, the midterm elections. But at any rate, obviously Kanye is always a hot topic. There's always a lot to talk about with him, and there's so many different things that he's been engaged in, I guess, recently, that I guess I'm going to summarize a little bit of it and see, what we can talk about. As far as the major thing, of course, is that he lost a lot of his, sponsorships and business partnerships as a result of some things that he had said that was considered to be, anti-Semitic. And that is also something that happened with the issue with Kyrie Irving. I think that basically on September the 15th, and this is Kyrie Irving, and for those of you who do not know who Kyrie Irving is that he's actually a professional basketball player currently with the Brooklyn Nets of the NBA. I think he's been in the NBA since 2011. He was picked first overall in the NBA draft, and he had actually played for Duke before joining the Cleveland Cavaliers, who initially drafted him in 2011. But on September the 15th, 2022, Kyrie Irving shared a video on his Instagram story containing, what has been considered a rant by InfoWars creator and far-right conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. And in the video, and it's from 2002, Jones promotes the New World Order conspiracy theory and alleges that state actors are planning to oppress the public by intentionally releasing viruses. In a Substack post published on October the 3rd, 2022, former NBA player and legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was, very critical of the post, calling Jones one of the most despicable human beings alive, and to associate with him means you share his stench. That's what was said about. And so obviously, since doing that as well, there were some other things. I mean, of course, he also talks, I think he earlier had tweeted about the Black Hebrew Israelite doctrine. This was back in 2021. And the idea that the Black Hebrews basically state that the black people are the real Jews, wherein anti-Semitism is common. So at any rate, he's considered to be anti-Semitic, and also with the issue with Kanye West, who is an artist. He's a producer, music producer, and artist. Is also similar issues where he's talked about the fact that the blacks are the real Hebrews, are the real Israelites, and that he also there's some talk about the Jews running, I guess, the music industry and being top executive at certain corporations, that sort of thing. So, he and who statements that was considered to be anti-Semitic by many within the Jewish community. Now, Kyrie Irving, of course, has been given an ultimatum in order for him to stay with his team. He's got to go out and he has to do a whole bunch of things to get back, including apologies and doing things with the Anti-Defamation League. I mean, just a whole lot of things. And of course, you have some on one side that are saying that, you know what, we need to protest the NBA because of what, the way that they're trying to scrutinize Kyrie Irving. And then you have other people on the other side that are basically, saying that he's anti-Semitic and actually supporting the criticism and the what the NBA and his team are doing as far as trying to admonish him and punish him for his views on it. And then we go. I guess we'll talk about the constitutional implications. I think everyone is saying there's no free speech, and I guess we need to first talk about the whole issue about whether this is really a free speech issue. Now, there's two issues. The first issue is whether the punishment and the reaction of the NBA and the Brooklyn Nets was appropriate, and we're just talking about Kyrie Irving at this point, whether that was appropriate. That's the first thing. And the second thing is whether is there legal repercussions, or should there be legal repercussions of them holding Kyrie Irving to that standard for making that statement. Now, I just want to be clear about, and I'm not talking about right or wrong. I'm just talking about the basis of what free speech is. Free speech means any constitutional guarantee is a guarantee relative to government. In order for you to assert a constitutional right, the person has to be a government actor. You can't really assert there are wrongdoings by a private actor. Let's just say, for example, if you are restrained by a police officer and, and maybe let's just say some of your rights were violated relative to the Constitution, then because the police officer is considered to be a government actor, then you can assert a constitutional claim or a violation of a constitutional right against a government actor. And there's some implications as to state actors and federal actors, state constitution, federal constitution, but let's just say state, federal, regardless, just say you can assert a constitutional claim. However, let's just say it's a private security guard. Let's say a private security guard, assaults you and holds you against your will. Then it isn't a constitutional claim. It's a claim against a private actor. Now, you can sue them for violating of your constitutional rights. I mean, not constitutional rights, but other rights. For example, whether it's an assault, a battery, false imprisonment, those sort of things. So you can assert that against a private actor. So that we can be clear, we're actually talking about acts that relative to Kyrie Irving, and to be honest, with regards to Kanye West, we're talking about acts against private actors. Now, the question is going to be, when it comes to Kyrie Irving, what does a private company, what can be the limitations on his speech? Now, if they're saying that, if you're a private actor and you're working for a private employer and you came out and you said something that's considered to be discriminatory against a particular group, I guess that's what they're saying, is that he's being discriminatory against the Jewish people, that basically, that was insensitive, that's wrong, that does not represent the organization, and you're going to be punished because of that, right? As well as some of the private endorsements that he had, and he's losing. I think Nike, if I'm not mistaken, he had a deal with Nike that he's losing as a result of this. So the question is, right or wrong? I mean, as far as first of all, can they do it? And if they did it, is it wrong for what they're doing, as far as, because people are saying that, was it anti-Semitic? Was the him asserting that blacks are the real Jews or Hebrews, and some of the statements about the real world, or and I know that there's some earlier statements that he had stated other than what he had showed as far as the conspiracy theory. Is it anti-Semitic? That's my question. Andrea, and then I'm gonna go to Rosa. Would that be considered to be anti-Semitic?
We're talking about Kyrie or Kanye? 'Cause I have two
Let's
different.
let's start with Kyrie.
I personally think that, because I'm not familiar with what he posted prior to in the past, but I think he ignorantly posted something anti-Semitic. I may not be the right one to answer that question, because I think that's kind of. Thank you, Joe. I think that's kind of subjective. Yeah, Rosa. Mr. Rosa in the hot seat. Go, Rosa.
I mean,
Or have you been hosting a podcast for a while and want to take it to the next level? If so, you need the Gab Radio Network. To host a show on the Gab Radio Network, all you need is your voice, and we'll handle the rest. From technical engineering to full-service audio production and much more. Every show on the Gab Radio Network can be heard on our station on the TuneIn Radio app. Plus, we put all of our shows on our satellite, which is accessed by over 5,500 stations. And here's the best part. You can host from anywhere you want. There are many means to connect to the Gab Radio Network remotely, and our staff of highly trained engineers and producers will make you sound like you're right here in studio. So, if you want to be on the Gab Radio Network, the same network that hosts the Small Business Advocate, Radio MD, and the Federalist, send an email right now to sales@gabradionetwork.com. That's sales@gabradionetwork.com.
Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer, while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew. We're continuing on our discussion regarding the Kanye West and Kyrie Irving controversy. And before we went to the break, the question was it anti-Semitic? And we, at least as it related to Kyrie Irving, and we were patiently and really waiting on to see what Rosa was getting ready to say.
well, I'm going to say that I think that from what I read, right, basically the movie kind of pushes the agenda that the Jewish people in government have an agenda to exterminate human beings by putting viruses out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that has been proven to not be true.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that it's definitely a harmful statement to come out there and support such a movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to the extent that I think that his whole career should end because of this comment,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that is fair.
Right.
And I think that's what's happening with a lot of these platforms, that there is no concrete governmental regulation remove any biases of the people that are, per se, running these platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, removing comments from a platform, it shows that deplatforming comments that are anti-Semitic, that are anti-Black, that are anti-minority have been successful in getting rid of discourse that is not true and that is harmful to those people in the population.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we live in a very sensitive culture where this cancel culture is really affecting the way people are punished or the way they post on these platforms. So that's my comment on it.
Okay. All right. Well, my thing is, I guess we'll begin by the initial question is trying to understand what anti-Semitism is. And I think that what happens with anti-Semitism is that it is extremely complicated.
Yes.
And I don't think that a lot of times people are, and I'm just being devil's advocate, right? And let me just go for both sides, right? I think that the reality of it is that as a young person growing up, myself, I really did not truly understand the the Jewish makeup or the Jewish the people who consider themselves to be Jews. There's different people who consider themselves to be Jews, right?
Right.
I mean, so you're talking people who consider themselves to be Jewish, not religiously, but they consider themselves to be Jewish ethically. There's actually people that consider themselves to be Jewish that don't even believe in God, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have people who consider themselves to be Jewish based purely on religious reasons. In fact, Sammy Davis Jr. was a Jew, a
Right.
convert to Judaism. So you have a very vast, it's very difficult for people. And there's some people that are basically take it from a biblical perspective and say, people who are descendants of certain people religiously, right? And I'm not going to get into that and start, talking about that. But there's a lot to unpack when you begin to start talking about who are Jewish people, right? And so when you look at the complexity of trying to identify who are Jewish people, then it's really easy to understand where there may be some ignorance when it comes to saying certain things, because some people, their first exposure to Judaism or who Jewish people are may come from people who are misdirected, right?
Right.
And that's very easy for someone to understand. Like I said, I mean, and even when people begin to start trying to understand what Judaism and Jewish people really are, it's still very confusing, right? And I think that's where we have to have that. I think sometimes that's where it becomes very confusing to people when they're making these statements, right? Let's just assume that the first, if I'm setting, I mean, clearly when you talk about African Americans, I think that there's very little confusion about identifying who African Americans really are.
Right.
Because it's based, right, wrong, or otherwise, it's based purely on color, right? Then when you start talking about white people, as we refer to white and black people, it's very easy to understand because you're talking about skin color. This is a white person. Now, when you're talking about Jewish people, most people, you're not, in many cases, going to know who a Jewish person is because most of the people, a lot of people who are Jewish come from Europe, and for most black people who come from, communities that don't really know that, they just look like white people to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because their skin color is white, and many of these people come from Europe.
Right.
Right? So what they consider to be European. So it's very complicated. And I think that the mere complexities of even discussing your ignorance and trying to understand could even in of itself be misunderstood. Right? That whole dialogue, if I go and I say, can you explain to me, what does that mean? Because it can be very confusing, right? So if I say that, I'm talking about it from a perspective of purely a religious perspective, and those who identify with it, right, identify that as a religion. And so anybody can be Jew, right? If you can convert to Judaism. So it could be a black person, it could be Andrea, it could be anybody that could convert to Judaism, right? Especially when you have someone like, Sammy Davis Jr. and other people who have converted to it, right? So does that, how does that play into that perspective, into that narrative? Where does that come from? Then when you say that someone who identifies with it based upon purely an ancestry type of situation, then what is that question? Is it an ethnic situation? What if you were a descendant of a convert? Right? How does that play into it? Right? Let's just say someone, I have no idea. I can't tell you that because I can't. We can't identify just by looking at it. So it's a very complicated discussion that really cannot, and really it's easy to understand how someone could be ignorant to understanding Jewish people.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it is. I mean, I think that's a true statement. Now, the criticism that I have is that how can we open up a dialogue if we can't ask questions? Right. You see what I'm saying? There's a lot of misunderstanding because this, racism and discrimination comes out of an idea of ignorance, and ignorance does not necessarily mean that you're not intelligent. It just means that you don't understand. So if we don't never have that conversation, then it will continue to be problematic. So I think that we do have to have that conversation and understand exactly what are we talking about. And when he makes that statement, who is he talking about? I mean, clearly, now I'm not talking about this whole Jones situation because I've never seen, I don't even, Alex Jones is not somebody that I keep up with. I've never seen it. And, so I can't really speak on that. But I'm talking about not what he said. I'm talking about clearly defining anti-Semitism at this point.
Yeah.
And we had Rabbi Singer on the show a couple of years ago to discuss that whole issue so that we can have a better understanding of who we are as people. But at any rate, we'll continue with our discussion on the other side of the break.
There's a new nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host Attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer, while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
We specifically as it relates to anti-Semitism or Semitism in general. But then that becomes the issue. The issue then becomes is do they have a monopoly on the definition? Because everybody has a different idea. For example, when I first began to work in the legal field for a law office, I worked for a Hasidic Jew, right? Mm-hmm. And there are different types of Jews. There's some Hasidic Jews. There's a school of thought that believes in the state of Israel, and there's Hasidic Jews that don't believe in the state of Israel. So there's different schools of thought. For example, when you talk about the Muslim religion, you know, there's Muslims all over the globe, right, including white, whatever. The same thing that exists for Jews, right? And there's different schools of thought within the Islamic faith. The same thing when it comes to the Christian faith. There's different schools of thought. There's Protestants, there's Catholics, right. There are Unitarians. Some Unitarians don't believe in Jesus. They believe in Jesus, but they don't believe in the Trinity. Right. Right? And so, you know, so that's a completely, you know, different idea. So someone would say, you know, I don't believe in the Trinity. But that doesn't believe, you know, but that's just your idea of a school of thought, right? I mean, so there's all kinds of different things. There's things that people say about the Catholic Church, right? But for all practical purposes, globally, Catholics are considered to be Christians. But it's just a sect of Christianity. It doesn't have a face on it. It's just a religion. You know, the same thing when it comes to Judaism. My thoughts are my perspective, my paradigm focuses more on the religious aspect of Judaism, as it does more so than it does the ethnic idea of Judaism, right? As one of the three, primary faiths that we recognize, right?
Okay.
And so, when someone makes a statement about, let's just say the Israel Palestinian conflict, where you have people within the Jewish faith who are critical of Israel. Now, for whatever reason, and I'm just using this as an example, and I'm just being just 100 about it. I think it's wrong for a Hasidic Jew or any other person who may consider themselves Jewish to have a critical analysis of Israel, and freely can do so, but nobody else can do so. I mean, that's just unfair.
Yes.
Now, this is the thing about anybody or anything. To make a blanket statement about Jewish people is wrong, because I've known, because it's vast. Like I said, there's people who consider themselves Jewish that don't even believe in God, right? There's people that consider themselves to be Jewish that, are considered to be, the Hasidic Jew. I mean, it's just vast from different places. There's Jews in Africa, right? There's people who are Jewish that go to, that happen to be from Africa, that go to Israel, and they say that they're being treated a certain way. I mean, it's just so many different things. Now, and I'm not even talking about Kyrie Irving now. I'm just putting it on the table about anti-Semitism, right? And where that comes from, and how it can be complicated, and how people kind of parse their words when they talk about, who's Jewish and who's not, and making blanket statements about certain things, right?
Right.
And so you don't even know. Sometimes I think you don't know whether you're being anti-Semitic or not. Sometimes, you know what I mean. So if I was to say that the majority of the players in the NBA are black, right? Let's just say a Jewish person says that, or a Christian person says that, or a white person says that, or a Hispanic person says that, or a Muslim person says that. Can I say they're anti-black and be kind of critical of them for making that particular statement?
I mean, you can. You said,
Huh?
can you be critical?
I'm asking that question. Is it a fair comparison? And the reason why I'm going there, especially if it said, or if I was to say that the majority of the people who are being arrested, right, for a certain crime are black people. Black people are being arrested at a higher rate, or black people commit more crimes, and when it comes to certain types of crimes. Is that a racist statement? Huh? Does it?
What
You
does
see
the
what?
research say?
Huh?
You're saying that if you put a statement of black people are in prison because they're more violent? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm just saying the numbers, and this is where I'm going with it. I'm saying that some of these statements that are being made, obviously, is where they're saying that Jews run this, or the Jews run that, or the Jews run, you know what I'm saying? Or there's a majority of Jewish people run this, or the majority of Jewish people, you see what I'm saying? And then when you make that statement, like if you say that they run if you say Jewish people run the entertainment industry, right? I don't know. I mean, I really have not done my research on it, but that's what the allegation is. You see what I'm saying?
Well, if the numbers check out, it's going to be around, right? But unfortunately, we live in a society and in a culture that is so hypersensitive to these things, and something like that could be perceived
as anti-Semitic.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But that's
And
crazy.
and again, I mean, it could be, like I said, I mean, I think that there is an issue of ignorance, but there's a lot of things that is it innocent or what's your intent? You know what I mean? So to me, I think that if someone says, and I'm just thinking outside the box, and I'm just being just 100 with it, right? If someone said that that black people run the music industry, right? Mm-hmm. I personally would not be mad about it, because I said, yeah, why would that make me feel bad? I think it, you know what I mean? I think that really, is that a critical thing? It's not like saying, is that a bad thing? You know what I mean? I think that what was Kanye's idea? What was his intention by saying that, the majority of the people who own certain companies happen to be, this is his, he showed something. I don't know if it's true or not. He could have been lying. I don't know. I didn't see it. But if he said that the majority of the people who run these companies are Jewish, right? Mm-hmm. Then the question is that critical?
Well, he was
go ahead.
No, he was saying that the majority of the people who run these companies are Jewish, and they are profiting off of exploitation of black people based on the type of music that they're allowing to be put out there.
So the question is, what is the purpose of that?
Of him making that statement?
In other words, let's just say, for example, I'm just saying that why is it what should he have said? What is really the point? Is the point that we should, the bigger question is, how are you going to allow another human being to exploit you?
Right.
Is that really the conversation? The conversation should be that we need to stop allowing people to exploit us, if that's the case. And what are we doing to control our own narrative?
Right.
Exactly.
See what I'm saying? So that is really more of, so in other words, that's how I feel about numbers. That's how I feel about, the fact that there are issues that we have. But let's just assume that you feel that way. Don't make you make a statement, but I think we also have to talk a lot about how do we solve these issues? How do we solve these problems? How do we educate, no matter who it is? It doesn't matter whether you're being exploited. What matters, there's been a lot of exploitation in the music industry.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to Suge Knight. Right?
Okay.
Didn't they say he exploited some people?
Yes.
They said he did a good job, but they also said he exploited people. They said that he basically, there's been things said about a lot of people. It's been, the music industry and the entertainment industry has been problematic, period. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think that what we need to do when it comes to we've heard it from Prince, we've heard it from Michael Jackson, we've heard it from a lot of people who have been very critical of the way that the design of the way that this industry it has, what it does to people, even what we're allowed to get the green light on doing certain projects. Mm-hmm. And I think that the bigger question is, how do we change that narrative? How do we change the things that we're doing as far as
A program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. Nubian Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep Your Hand on the Plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer, while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're continuing with our discussion. I know we're pressing against the hour, but this is a lot. We haven't even got back past the definition yet.
Right.
We got all these other things to talk about, but this is where I'm getting at, and this is why I believe that the dialogue has to be there. That's why I'm saying, I mean, when you're doing that, there is confusion. Let me tell you a few African Americans that are considered to be Jewish. Drake, Jackie Wilson, let's see, Justin Warfield, Amari Stoudemire, who was a basketball player who played in the NBA, Tracy Ellis Ross, of course, we know that I think her father actually, I don't know, Rain Pryor.
Maya Rudolph.
Who?
Maya Rudolph.
We also talked, obviously, about Sammy Davis Jr., Zoe Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz, obviously, Rashida Jones, Ben Harper, Tiffany Haddish.
Okay.
Lewis Gordon. Nell Carter. So, I mean, and that's just a short number of individuals. There's a lot of people who are considered to be African American and also considered to be Jewish. Some of it is because they may have a parent who identified with being Jewish, and then some of it is a result of the fact that they converted. So, you know, that again, it's very confusing for some people, I guess, to make a determination as to, you know, and that makes a difference when you're making these statements. Are you talking about, you know, and also it goes both ways. Since it is a religion, then you also have to be very cognizant of the fact when you make the blanket statement about who's Jewish, but you also have to be very cognizant about the people that you're saying that's anti-Semitic based upon certain statements that they're making, and the ignorance of people who don't understand, you know, really what's going on. And then you have the whole issue of some people do have hate. It does come from a history of hatred, where you do have the issue of the Holocaust and the fact that people denied that the Holocaust happened.
Right.
And then, we go into this debate about who caught more hell, right? The black people or the Jews. And it becomes this argument and this whole debate about, whether it's healthy or not, or ultimately what in the final analysis comes out of that dialogue, right?
Right.
So, that's kind of where I am. I know we're pushing up against the hour, so I'm gonna go to Rosa first to give her input, since I took the whole time, and then you can chime in, and then we can kind of come together, at least on this issue, since we can't get past it.
Then again, in terms of Kanye, it's Kanye. Like, this guy has, I don't know what's happened, and it's really sad to see the end of his career, in a way, is coming.
Yeah.
Because of the way he's been affected, of course, by the death of his own mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also the way that he expresses himself sometimes. It's definitely not something for the times, per se.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he might mean well, right?
Mm-hmm.
I do think that we do live in a culture that's hypersensitive, and things aren't read the way they should. But in terms of the platforms themselves and everything that's happening, I think that there has to be some sort of accountability for holding the owners of these companies like Twitter or Facebook, accountable for who is blocked and who isn't, and what are the policies. Because a lot of the times it seems that there is some sort of preference for certain types of people putting stuff out there as opposed to others, right?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless if it's anti-Semitic or something that's anti-Black people. So I think there needs to be more done to regulate these large corporations and how they're handling the way that information is disseminated.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. On another board, though, I feel like, we're talking about freedom of speech, and we have the right to say whatever we want to say, right? However, in most cases, depending on who it offends, there is a cost. There's a price for that. And me myself, I have a problem with people being made to apologize, because you apologize. I'm making you apologize, but does that change the way that you feel and your views? No, it does not. You're just going through the motions to pacify other people. So I don't necessarily agree with making Kanye apologize, or anybody else who's made any kind of disparaging remarks about, Black people or whomever, But in that same respect, you have to understand that there is a consequence for what you may express, and you have to be prepared to receive that. If I have a company, and my company is a company who is an advocate for children in foster care, and I hire someone who makes disparaging remarks about children in foster care, they're all hopeless. You know what? I appreciate your comment, and that's how you feel. I don't think you're a good fit for my company. You have to go. You got to just be prepared for that. But I just don't agree with stifling what people believe. And for me, I want to know if you don't care for me as a Black woman, short, sexy, whatever your issue is with me. I want to know what that is. So, I appreciate these platforms, but again, in that same respect, I do think that we are an extremely sensitive culture now, and you just have to be prepared for what may come, the price that you'll have to pay for expressing those things.
Well, yeah, I think that is true. I think that basically this is what it boils down to, is that it's all about money.
Absolutely.
The fact that, it's the power of protest and boycotting, and that basically if someone says something, just like, for example, what is happening to Kyrie, for example. If you're opposed to what's happening to him, then obviously we have every right to boycott the NBA. Mm-hmm. We have every right to boycott the Nets. You know, so I mean, and you know, that's kind of the whole issue. These people are cutting ties with him because they're concerned about the consequences of him making the statement and the fact that he may be seen as anti-Semitic. I think that as much as we can disagree or agree with regards to, you know, the way that they shush certain people and may not shush, you know, other people, you know, is a matter of, you know, it begins with the issue. It is about, sometimes it is about race, and a lot of times it is, because that's part of it. But it's also clearly a lot about, you know, the issue of money. You know, that's really what it boils down to. It's the same thing when we talk about the issue of Kanye West and the fact of the endorsements that he's going to lose as a result of him making the, you know, the statements that he's making. It does boil down to an issue of money. And so, you know, the reality of it is that where do we put do we put our value on money, or do we put our value on ethics? You know, and I think that sometimes, you know, that means that would I rather know how you feel, or would I rather be put in a position to know that?
Syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com.